Let's talk about George Washington. Much is known about George Washington, our nation's very first president. From his role in the American Revolution to his leadership that set our nation on the path to being a beacon of hope and change. So, instead of summarizing what would undoubtedly be information many of you have heard before, I want to speak to President Washington's faith. Since the time of his death, there have been many who have said that he was not a Christian. Today, there are those who, even in the face of facts and proof, refuse to accept this. A man by the name of Jared Sparks compiled the actual writings of George Washington following his death. In volume 12 of these writings, Jared Sparks spent time evaluating the religious character of the first president. He included letters written by friends, associates, and family. These letters testified of the faith by which the first president lived. One such letter read, "To say that he was not a Christian would be to impeach his sincerity and honesty. Of all men in the world, Washington was certainly the last whom anyone would charge with dissimulation or indirectness. And if he was so scrupulous in avoiding even a shadow of these faults in every known act of his life, however unimportant, it is credible that in a matter of the highest and most serious importance, he should practice through a long series of years a deliberate deception upon his friends and the public. It is neither credible nor possible." Now, this leads us to the question, if he was a Christian, then why did he have slaves? Like many others during this time, he inherited slaves, but did not accept slavery to be right. Most of the men who gave us the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution wanted to see slavery abolished. George Washington would write in a letter to Robert Morris speaking on slavery, "I can only say that there is not a man living who wishes more sincerely than I do to see a plan adopted for the abolition of it." In 1787 and 1789, in dealing with the Northwest Ordinance, which governed the admission of new states into the Union, he signed the first federal act dealing with slavery. It prohibited these new states and territories from allowing slavery. Now, many states would outlaw slavery very quickly. This was not the case for southern states. There was much anti-slavery sentiment in the South, and though many states considered proposals to abolish slavery, none chose to do so. Now, this was a problem which would ultimately play a major role in America's Civil War. Many of these southern states had laws on the books that made it impossible to free slaves. Once some of these laws were amended, it made it possible for George Washington to set his slaves free and to make provision for their well-being.